For the better part of the last decade, I feel like the ultimate symbol of a luxury event was the flower wall.
Oh, absolutely. The classic flower
You
wall.
know the one, I mean, we've all seen it. It's this massive, perfectly manicured, just utterly untouchable monument of roses. And it's designed purely to look good on Instagram.
Right, it's a backdrop.
Exactly. You stand in front of it, you take your photo, and you just walk away. But today, the most sought after high-end events in the world, they look entirely different. They look a little bit wild.
Yeah, wild is a good word for it.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We've got our hands on this really massive trend report from the wedding and event styling platform Weddizer. And our mission today is to explore this fundamental shift they've identified in event design.
Which is pretty fascinating.
It really is. It's a movement toward what they call textural and layered decor for sensory experiences. So basically, modern celebrations are totally ditching those purely visual, flat aesthetics to build these fully immersive, multisensory environments.
Right, they're engaging all the senses now.
And honestly, what this tells us about modern luxury, human psychology, and just how we actually want to connect with each other, it's pretty profound.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because reading through these sources, this one image kept coming to mind for me.
Oh yeah. What was that?
Well, traditional event decor, it used to be exactly like standing in a museum looking at a priceless painting. You know, you admire it, it's gorgeous, but there's a velvet rope and you are absolutely not allowed to touch it.
That is a perfect analogy, actually. There is always this very strict, invisible barrier between the art or the decor and the observer. The environment was just something you merely witnessed.
Right, you just look at it. But this new trend Weddizer is describing, it's not a painting behind a velvet rope anymore. It's a lot more like a 4D movie experience.
Yes, exactly.
It completely surrounds you, it engages you, and it practically demands that you interact with it physically.
And if we look at the psychological underpinnings of that shift, we are really moving away from just, picking pretty color palettes. We're stepping into immersive storytelling. Immersive storytelling. I like that.
Yeah, it's a deliberate move by designers to create an environment that actually dictates how guests feel on a neurological level. Because for years, the goal was simply showing off a beautiful space.
Just flexing the budget, basically.
Right. But now, the goal is actively welcoming people into a carefully curated atmosphere. Think about the tension between our digital lives and our physical reality right now.
Oh, man. We're just glued to screens all day.
Exactly. We spend all day looking at flat screens. So when we finally gather in person, we are subconsciously craving an environment that proves we are in the real world.
I want to dig into that, actually, that shift from the visual to the immersive, because the Weddizer report is really clear that the days of just throwing up one extravagant, massive floral installation and calling it a day, those days are completely over.
They are done.
Instead, couples and planners are trying to create this emotional connection through tiny, tactile, carefully selected details. But I have to ask this on behalf of anyone listening who might be a little cynical.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because my radar definitely goes up here. Is this just a clever marketing ploy?
Ah, I see where you're going.
Right. I mean, come on, renting custom artisanal ceramics and multi-layered linens, that has to cost way more than standard catering plates. Is the event industry just finding a new, highly aesthetic way to get couples to buy more stuff? Or is there a genuine psychological shift happening in how we gather?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the evidence points to a very genuine, fundamental shift in human behavior. It's not just a retail strategy.
Really? So it's not just about the upsell?
No, it's actually not about accumulating more things. It's about the quality, the texture, and the intention behind those things. After years of highly manicured, almost sterile aesthetics designed just for a camera lens, people are fundamentally rejecting environments that feel cold.
They want warmth.
Exactly. They want a space that feels like an embrace. When a room is designed purely for photos, the guest feels like a prop. But when it's designed for the senses, the guest actually feels valued.
Which is such an important distinction. Think about the last formal event you, the listener, went to. Did you feel comfortable sinking into the furniture, or did you feel like you'd break something if you relaxed?
That's the velvet rope feeling again.
Exactly. Because creating that embrace you're talking about, it isn't just a vibe. It requires completely changing the physical building blocks of a room. I mean, you can't just throw a stiff polyester tablecloth down and expect people to feel instantly at home.
Precisely. And the report breaks down the specific elements needed to create this feeling. It really comes down to mastering the mechanics of physical layering.
Physical layering, what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, it's about contrasting different material categories. For example, you start with luxury fabrics. But rather than just defaulting to one shiny material all over the room, designers are combining very specific textures.
Like what?
Think of mixing smooth, cool silk with something like boucle.
Oh, book. And for anyone who isn't an interior designer, bucle is that incredibly nubby, loopy yarn fabric. It looks and feels almost like a really high-end, cozy sweater.
Yes, exactly. You see it on a lot of modern accent chairs right now.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Right. So you have the visual elegance of the silk, which reflects light and feels really elevated, and that directly contrasts with the buccal, which absorbs light and visually communicates warmth and comfort.
That makes total sense.
But if you stop there, the room still feels ungrounded. It
Yeah.
feels a bit like you are floating in a jewelry box.
Right, which is why the Weddizer report talks about grounding that soft luxury with raw, natural materials. This is where you bring in your wood, your rough stone, marble, bamboo, or even rattan cane furniture.
Exactly. Or even incorporating things like live moss or dried botanicals right into the table settings.
Oh, wow, moss on the table. And then as the final layer, you have the decorative accessories, right? The textured glassware, the heavy artisan ceramics.
Yes. And layering those specific categories isn't random at all. It's a very calculated architectural decision to play with light and shadow.
You know, it reminds me of building a complex flavor profile in cooking.
Oh, I love that comparison. How so?
Well, if you just have rich, soft velvet and silk everywhere, that's like only having fat or butter in a dish. I mean, it's delicious for a second, but it's entirely too heavy and one note on its own.
Right, it coats the palate too much.
Exactly. You desperately need it to be balanced by the raw, natural stone or the rattan. That's your acidity or your crunch.
Hmm.
If you don't layer those contrasting textures, the whole design just falls completely flat.
Taking that cooking analogy a step further, the lighting and the spatial design, they act as the temperature of the dish. They tie all those contrasting flavors together.
That is a great way to put it.
From a purely aesthetic standpoint, this kind of layering creates visual depth that photographs beautifully timelessly. Flat surfaces just reflect light in a very one-dimensional way.
Which is why the old ballrooms always felt so stark.
Exactly. Layered textures capture shadow, giving the room a three-dimensional richness. But the most crucial mechanism at play here is how it dictates physical interaction.
Because it's a tactile invitation. When you place a rough, heavy stone coaster next to a soft linen napkin on a dinner table, you are naturally prompting the guests to reach out.
You literally want them to physically feel the difference.
Yes, you are pulling them out of their own head and dropping them right into their physical body. And once you invite someone to touch their environment, you, as a designer, are suddenly forced to consider the entire sensory